doing a series on finances, which I kind of changed it to prosperity, because we think in terms of money always, it seems like, when it comes to finances. But prosperity, we think of a little bit more than that normally, even though they're pretty much about the same meaning. But prosperity includes money, but it also includes our health and just lots of other areas. And sometimes it's just, like God, when he prospers us, sometimes even in Old Testaments, when he was prospering people, sometimes he made it to where their clothes didn't wear out, or food rained from heaven like manna, or things like that. And I know he has helped Dave with his vehicle. Most people, I don't know how many miles he's got on his car, but how many? He's got 800,000 miles on that car. But he bought a car, and God helped him get that car, because it's just right for him, because it's not too big and it's not too small, and it's old enough to where a lot of stuff, when it goes wrong, he's able to fix it because it's not computerized. Which has saved him money. And then God has helped him figure out ways, like the type of oil he uses, and, well, he can tell you about it all, to where it lasts longer. Well, most people, after 100 to 200,000 miles, they're ready to change cars because things start going wrong, and it gets too expensive when you're having to pay somebody their labor to do it. Well, if you know how to do it yourself like Dave does, well then, and he didn't at first, I don't imagine. God just helped him find ways, and with the internet like it is, you can learn how to do almost anything if you've a mind to. So anyway, so prosperity covers lots of areas. It can be family. Way back in years ago, in the Bible days, the more people you had, the more children you had, you were considered wealthy. You were considered wealthy if you had lots of flocks, if you had cattle of some kind, because that was an agricultural time and place. So anyway, but God had, you've heard me say it before, God inspired me, and then I got approval of several church members to go on ahead and use Beginnings of Plenty for our slogan. And I ministered on that on January the 1st, and then January the 29th. And Dave recorded these, and these are online if you want to hear any of them. I personally, an artist is their own worst critic. I personally think some are okay and some are not okay, and as far as my teaching ability is concerned. And then the one I did Sunday, I think, was my better one of all the ones I've done, and I even got a compliment or two off of that one. So I think I did a better teaching. I was in a better teaching mode that day or something. I don't know. I did it more like teaching instead of Bible study, but it turned out better. But the second one I did on January the 29th was God's Stewards. We are not owners of the things we think we own. We are actually stewards, taking care of things that God has allowed us to have. And the third one I did was February the 9th, Know the State of Your Flocks. You need to know what resources you have and what you have coming, as well as what you're going to have to pay out for living expenses or whatever. And you can apply that to your time and your energy and your body as well. Number 4, I did on February the 19th. And I just started I got impressed by God to start going through Proverbs to see what Proverbs said. And it's been a while since I've gone through Proverbs, so I was expecting to see more comments about money. But so far, most of the comments have to do with integrity, wisdom, understanding, and And listening and heeding good advice. It's just all throughout this. Well, all of it is connected to prosperity. Because when you do things, when you understand how to do it, and you understand what you're doing, and you use wisdom in doing it, and you use your integrity and prudence with it, you will prosper more because you're doing things God's way. And so it can be prosperous to you financially, mentally, physically, spiritually, in all kinds of ways, just by focusing on that which goes along with seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. And so when we seek to do it God's way, that's when we start getting blessed. Anyway, that got us up through, let's see, we did February the 19th, we did chapters 1 through 7. February the 23rd, we did chapters 8 through 9. February the 26th, we did Proverbs 10. March the 1st, this last Sunday, we did Proverbs 11. And today, we're going to start on Proverbs 12. Now, we haven't been reading the whole Proverbs, but there's just certain, I think we'll do 12 and 13 today. There's just certain verses I felt was what God wanted me to emphasize. All of Proverbs is good, and it hits all kinds of places. But if you would turn to Proverbs 12, if I can talk Josie into reading verse 11, then we'll make some comments and see where we can go from there.
He that tilleth his land shall be satisfied with bread, but he that followeth vain persons is void of understanding.
Okay. Do you know what version your Bible is?
It's King James.
King James. And what version is yours, Dave? Same one? Okay. I've got the Amplified. I like King James, don't get me wrong, but I understand the Amplified better, so I use it a lot. I'm going to go ahead and read it over again in the Amplified, and then anybody that has a comment, just jump in there and comment. He who tills his land will have plenty of bread, but he who follows worthless things lacks common sense and good judgment. And that's how it's worded in the Amplified, which means the same. It's just worded a little bit different. Does anybody have a comment about that verse in regards to prosperity?
It means probably don't be lazy.
That's kind of what I got out of it. If you're tilling the land, you can't be lazy, because tilling the land's hard work.
Yeah, that was the American dream, to have your own land
Mm-hmm.
and to do those things.
Yeah.
And, well, not today.
I know way back, like in Pilgrim days, you hear stories where they'd say things like, if you own your own piece of ground, the parents wanted their kids to own land, because once they owned land, they felt like they would be okay, because they'd have a way to provide for themselves, and they'd be all right. And the parents themselves felt that way about themselves. I gotta have some land. You had the land rush and all kinds of stuff going on way back then, trying to get land. But it's true that whether you're talking about raising crops on the land or or having a job or having a beauty salon, you have to work hard. If you don't work hard, it's not going to work out to your benefit. But the one who works hard will have plenty of bread, which bread stands for your needs being met, is the way I take it. Dave, would you read verse 15, please?
The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he that hearkeneth unto counsel is wise.
It's very good. And I think we'll do take turns doing the King James on these verses between you two, and then I'll read the Amplified right afterwards, and then we'll do comments. If that's okay with everybody, we'll just do that throughout this hour. The way of the arrogant fool who rejects God's wisdom is right in his own eyes. But a wise and prudent man is he who listens to counsel. Anybody want to comment?
Nobody wants counsel today.
Well, I've run into quite a few people that I consider like the fool. They're unteachable because they think they know it all. They won't even listen to anybody else's ideas. It's their way of doing it, their ideas or no ideas. And I think even when we think we're right, we should consider what the other person is saying just in case, and ask God, if there's anything we need to change in our thinking. And I think that's being wise and prudent, because if you think you know it all, things are going to happen that prove eventually to you that you don't. And that won't be nice. Won't be pleasant. All right. Josie, would you read verse 27?
The slothful man roasteth not that which he took in hunting, but the substance of a diligent man is precious.
Okay. The Amplified says the lazy man, slothful man, same thing, does not catch and roast his prey, but the precious possession of a wise man is diligence, because he recognizes opportunities and seizes them. So I'll go ahead and tell you what that kind of tells me. It tells me, by considering both of the versions there, that the slothful man, he may go out hunting, but he doesn't take care of cooking his food on time. It might spoil, and his hunting effort was for nothing because he didn't have anything to eat. If you wait too long, your opportunity is only just so long after you hunt before you have to have that cooked. And back then, they didn't have freezers and refrigerators like we do. I think they could put stuff in a cave where it was cooler, dig a big hole, but or keep it in the water or something. But you still had a very limited time. And but the wise man, he is diligent and timely in dealing with whatever he does. He has his eye, he's observant, and he takes note of opportunities he has and seizes them. He doesn't just sit around on his duff doing nothing and wanting somebody to bless him. Anybody else have any other comment about that?
Well, it's the people back then, I think they made their meat into jerky, dried their meat in the sun or something.
I think
Even
they
the
did.
fish.
Some of them did, yeah, I think.
They'd take the fish and hang the fish up too. dry it in the sun, season it, whatever.
Yeah. If you didn't do anything with it, though, at the right time, it'd spoil before you got, whether you dried it or not, wouldn't it? Got to do it in a timely manner. People come to Josie to have their hair cut when they've made their appointment and they're ready to have it cut then. If she's not going to do it then, well, they'll just go to somebody else and have it cut.
I don't mean.
Did you have another comment?
Well, this might not pertain, but I remember when my dad, there was an ice house in Coweta, and I remember he had an old ice box that he loved to put, it was just an ice box, they used to call them, because they'd buy a chunk of ice about so big and put it in that ice box. It was old before there was electricity, and that he liked to put things in that. That's weird. But then you'd go to the ice house, and he just loved to go to the ice house and get big chunks of ice and put in his everything. So that's how they preserved their stuff before there was electricity refrigerators.
He probably liked
it. But it was an old one, and I don't know, they got to where they didn't have those ice houses,
Well, he was probably raised
like that. Yeah.
Like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how we are now, however way we were raised, we don't like it when somebody wants us to change. Reva still has a house phone, and she's not going to get her a computer or a cell phone.
Oh, goodness.
I didn't get that stubborn, but I am stubborn in some other ways.
I tried to tell her to go get one of those real cheap ones and take it with her when she drove,
No, she didn't want to have anything to do with it. I don't think we'll ever change her mind. I could be wrong, but that's just the way it is. All right.
So I got off the track.
No, that's.
But that was a good
That's
example.
still
of
being
me.
timely. It's like now that you don't have any ice houses, you can't do that. So you have to kind of move with the cloud or change with the times, or however you know word
They
it.
do have a portable one electronic one that you can get crushed ice and stuff like that, but not the big block ice.
No. And I think at one point they also used dry ice.
Right.
But you have to be really careful with that, because if you touch it, it can really do some damage to your skin.
You can still go down and get dry ice if the electric is off and put it in your refrigerator on top there, and it would keep your stuff.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Okay, let's move on to chapter 13. Dave, I think it's your turn to read.
Is that the first verse?
First verse, yeah.
A wise son heareth his father's instruction, but a scorner heareth not rebuke.
It says here, a wise son heeds and accepts and is the result of his father's discipline and instruction. But a scoffer does not listen to reprimand and does not learn from his errors. Who was it? Was it John that said it's not a mistake if we learn from it?
Mm-hmm.
It's a learning experience. And but a scoffer or a fool, he doesn't look at it that way, and he usually thinks he's right anyway when he's wrong. And so he's not going to, when he has a mistake, he's not going to admit he made a mistake, and he's not going to learn from that. All right, Josie, will you read verse 3, please?
Okay. He that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life, but he that openeth wide his lips shall have destruction.
Okay. The one who guards his mouth thinking before he speaks protects his life. The one who opens his lips wide and chatters without thinking comes to ruin. Well, I've been guilty of both of those. Probably the latter one more often than the first one, because most of my life I've been good at talking. And when you're really good at talking, if you don't control it, things pop out of your mouth before you realize it, and sometimes some of those things you wish you could take back afterwards, but it's too late. It came out already, and it can cause a lot of trouble. So it's good for the one who thinks before he speaks, and I'm trying to do better at it than I used to. But I used to get myself into a lot of trouble. People get their feelings hurt, get mad at me, all kinds of things, just because I didn't think first before I spoke. All right. Dave, is it your turn? Let's do verse 4.
The soul of the sluggard desireth and have nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made fat.
And of course, fat is in this particular verse is not bad. I like how it's worded in the Amplified, because it makes it, because we think of fat as being bad, as harmful to our body, stuff like that. But I think it's more of the word rich. But the Amplified says, the soul or appetite of the lazy person craves and gets nothing, for lethargy overcomes ambition. So he wants it, desires it, but he doesn't want to do what it takes to get it. He doesn't want to work to get whatever he is desiring. He just wants somebody to hand it over to him. But the soul appetite of the diligent, who works willingly, is rich and abundantly supplied. So when you want something and you work hard for it, you usually reap what you sow. And so if you worked hard for it, you will be rich and abundantly supplied. And Josie, would you read verse 11?
Wealth gotten by vanity shall be diminished, but he that gathereth by labor shall increase.
Now we're getting into prosperity for sure. The Amplified says, wealth obtained by fraud dwindles, but he who gathers gradually by honest labor will increase his riches. When people come up with these money-making schemes, they just end up biting them in the back side when it's all said and done. Whereas those who go out and get an honest job, it may not look like it's going to be that good at the beginning. It might not be as much per hour, but eventually they get an increase in their riches, not only by working hard, but by using wisdom in how they spend that money that they earned. And it reminds me of the old Aesop fable about the tortoise and the rabbit. The rabbit was in a hurry, and he was just rush. Well, the turtle just plodded on, steady as you go. And the rabbit thought he was going to win, but he didn't. The turtle, who kept plodding on, won. And I have known people who, at the beginning of their job, they didn't earn that much per hour. but they saved some and invested, and they gave some to the Lord and to people that were in need, and then they spent some on their needs. They paid their bills, and they did little bits by little bits and little bits by little bits, but every time they got paid, they took some money to save and invest, even if it was a small amount. And they worked for like 30 years or so at their job and were able to retire. Of course, wages increased along the way, but not as fast as they should have, I'm sure. But they were able to. I knew a lady who was able to buy her, have her dream home built with the money that she had put away by doing that. And she didn't have a high-paying job, but she was consistent with saving a certain percentage out of every check and putting it in something that would bear a little bit of pay her a little bit of interest for using her money. And you know, after all those years, that really added up. So it was very beneficial to her. Okay. Dave, would you read 13?
Whoso despiseth the word shall be destroyed, but he that feareth the commandment shall be rewarded.
And thank you. And the Amplified says, whosoever despises the word and counsel of God brings destruction upon himself. But he who reverently fears and respects the commandment of God will be rewarded. And see, that's kind of the theme that we've read off and on throughout Proverbs. Listen, heed, pay attention, and know that doing things God's way will bring blessing. And not doing things God's way will not bring the blessings that are lasting. And of course, the blessings that are lasting are not just about material things. It's also about like a reputation. People who do it God's way, you can trust them that if they say they're going to do it, they're going to do it. And if you do business with them, they do it honestly. They don't try to trick you and take you for everything you got. They don't have dollar signs and greed in their eyes. And so you start respecting them. You start trusting them. And you want to do business with them again because you know you can count on them to do what they say they'll do, and they won't try to rip you off. And but you flip the coin to the side where the person who deals with you deals deceptively. Well, they may get a lot of money out of you that first time they do deceptively towards you, but once you realize how they're dealing with you, you don't trust them anymore, and you don't do business with them anymore, and so they don't get any more money out of you. So anyway, I'll just use that for an example, but you know people that if you had to stake your life on whatever they said, you'd be dead already, probably 100 times already. So.
Well, faith in the word is one thing, but faith should also be action. So whoever's a doer of the word,
yes,
shall be rewarded.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes, I'm glad you said that, because it says faith without works is dead. Knowledge without works is dead. If we don't apply what we know, it won't help us any. So that was very good, Dave. Very good. Do you have anything else any other comments, Miss Josie?
No.
No. Okay. I think it's your turn to read. Will you read verse 21?
Me. Who?
Oh, 21.
Oh, okay. Evil pursueth sinners, but to the righteous good shall be repaid.
Thank you. And in the Amplified it says, adversity pursues sinners, but the consistently upright will be rewarded with prosperity. So basically, if we do good, God will bless us. If we do bad, we won't see the blessings that we could have had. And so that's the way I take it. Anybody got any more to add to that one?
Yeah. Whatever you do is going to come back to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's good. All right. Dave, will you read verse 22?
A good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just.
Okay. So a good man is one that does the best of his ability to do in every area of his life what God would have him to do. And because of that, he has an inheritance for not just his kids, but his grandkids as well. And but the sinner, the ones I've observed anyway, who decided to not do things God's way, many of them have lost everything that they have. Well, what they lost went somewhere. I mean, if they didn't pay the bills on their truck, they lost their truck. If they didn't pay the bills on a storage building or pay rent, well, they lost their home and their storage and their stuff. Well, that went to somebody else and made them richer. So, it's just another way to express we need to do God's will. We need to do things God's way. God will help us do it the right way, and the right way we will be blessed by. I'm sorry, I'm having a short-term memory thing. Josie, is it your turn to read?
I think so.
Okay, will you read 25, please?
The righteous eateth to the satisfying of his soul, but the belly of the wicked shall want.
Mm-hmm. When we do things God's way, whether we're talking about real physical hunger or whatever, we will be satisfied. But the wicked is always wanting more and more and more, but he doesn't want to do the right thing to get what he needs, let alone what he wants. He just wants it handed to him. And so that's not going to work. Dave, will you read? Well, I wasn't going to go to 14, but I think I might. Let me see. I don't know. It's 8:30. What do you think? I think we should stop there and go on to 14. We can do 14 another night if y'all want.
Okay.
Amen.
That work for you?